talk about your real specialty, which is therapeutic dosing. There's so many people that are lost, and we're looking for people like yourself to help us find these therapeutic endpoints.
I'm going to be talking about oral to start with, just because oral is very different than, say, vape or sublingual. It takes longer to kick in, and it's much more potent orally as compared to vape, which is counterintuitive in most cases. You'd think that the vape would be stronger, but it's actually less strong in the long run. With epilepsy, we use the 20-to-1 CBD ratio, and it was 20 milligrams per milliliter of CBD and 1 milligram per milliliter of THC. You started between 1 to 5 milligrams per kilogram per day in divided doses, usually 2 to 3 times per day, but up to 4 or 5 times per day for certain conditions. Autism, for example, is a condition where you tended to dose more frequently at a lower dose. And so that's where, like, autism patients tend to be more sensitive to changes, and you'd have to give more round-the-clock dosing, so more like 4 to 5 times per day, where it's more like 3 times per day for the average epilepsy patient.
Now, hold on. Are we talking about adults, or are we talking pediatrics?
We treated both. Most of the dosing, though, that is strictly or CBD dominant is pediatric. And the reason for that is because it's so expensive. So the dosing starts around, like I said, 1 to 5 milligrams per kilogram per day in divided doses, and goes up to 25 milligrams per kilogram per day. Now, in a child, you can reach that dose with CBD dominant alone, but the more weight the bigger you are, the much more expensive it becomes. And so that's where we come into the issue, is treating an adult with CBD dominant only for autism or epilepsy is very impractical, because let's dose me. So I'm 185 pounds, which is, so now you all know that. So that is 84 kilograms. And for me to get up to 25 milligrams per kilogram per day, that's 2,100 milligrams of CBD I'd have to be taking a day. Now, the cost of that at where I worked is roughly $5,000 per month. So it's very hard to treat adults with that, because it becomes too expensive. So what we would do with adults or larger children is actually get you up more towards 5 milligrams per kilogram per day on the CBD dominant, and then start adding on THC dominant slowly, about 1 milligram, increasing by 1 milligram every 3 to 5 days, up to your therapeutic endpoint, i.e. seizure reduction rate, or whatever we are treating, behavioral reduction rate. Like if you're autistic and you're having violent outbursts or whatever, we would basically reach a therapeutic endpoint where we have a reduction in behavioral manifestations or seizures. So that's where it gets complicated, is you have to bring in THC because expense gets too high in adults or large children.